When I say that aerobic training is the healthiest and most productive way to train, what do I mean by that? If you have followed me for any period of time, we've talked a lot about the idea that high intensity interval training, also known as HITT training, has quite a bit of negative impact on the human body. When you look at the idea of, you think about this in terms of a motor, as you bring your speed of your motor up, you notice that you get less and less gas mileage, right? You also recognize that as you bring your RPMs up of your motor, you have more waste coming out the exhaust pipe. I want you to think about high intensity interval training the exact same way, but with a twist. The same way if you drive your automobile pedal to the metal, drive it extremely fast and hard, you realize and not surprised that the car is going to wear out quicker than if you just take your time driving it a little bit more reasonably. When we look at the human body, it is exactly the same way. Our body is not designed to be redlined every single day. The reason why I always say publicly that aerobic training is it's both the healthiest and most productive is because first and foremost, aerobic capacity is the #1 physical limiter when it comes to any form of athleticism. The ability to deliver oxygen to working muscles will always be your #1 physical limiter. I want to keep this conversation kind of like a game of ping pong, going from the good, the bad to the good. When you're training aerobically, what you're doing is you're reducing what we refer to as oxidative stress on the overall internal system. Just like when your motor is at a very high RPM range, it's producing a lot of metabolic waste. A combustible amount of waste goes out the back of the vehicle. In the human body, we refer to that as metabolic byproduct. So as you bring the heart rate up higher and higher, you're producing what we refer to as oxidative stress on the system, which is a very complicated process of converting stored energy into usable energy. So as your heart rate, and that's always the easiest reference tool, is as you bring the heart rate up higher and higher, what your body does is it produces progressively more and more free radicals. Now, zoom out to 10,000 feet. When somebody says to you, hey, are fruits and vegetables good for you? They'll say, yeah, they're high in vitamins and minerals and water and electrolytes. Have you ever heard the term antioxidant? They'll say that fruits and vegetables are high in antioxidants. Well, now you can start to put the two together. As the body has to deal with oxidative stress, that's where we get the word antioxidant. What it essentially does is it negates the negative impact associated with high levels of training, high heart rate training. Now, when we're looking at the idea of what kind of impact does that have on the body, the easiest way I can get you to think about oxidative stress in the system is when you see an athlete who looks 20 years older than they actually are. You may see dark circles under their eyes. You might notice that their wrinkles are extremely deep. You may notice that they have kind of a leatherback turtle looking skin. They have dry hair. If you get cut, it doesn't heal very quickly. When we start seeing long-term effects of oxidative stress, that's where we start to see fatigue-related diseases like adrenal fatigue, Addison's disease, glandular disease. And when we start putting all these together, stop and recognize that the only reason why the body's getting overworked is because the heart rate is being elevated for an extended period of time, multiple days in a row, with very little time to rest in between. Now remember, that rest can be daily. Let's back it up. That rest cycle could be in a workout. It could be rest cycles on a day-to-day, if you're working out in the morning and the evening, or day-to-day. If we don't get adequate amounts of sleep and food to be able to absorb the amount of stress you expose the body to, you're fast-tracking to fatigue-related diseases. So when I say that aerobic training is the healthiest, it's because it has the lowest level of oxidative stress on the human body. Now, if we use a bunch of double negatives, if you train predominantly aerobically, you don't end up seeing those negative external signs associated with oxidative stress. For example, you won't look prematurely old. You won't have dark circles under your eyes. You won't have deep wrinkles. You won't have brittle skin and hair. So that's why I say both internally and externally, you've got to stop and think about what kind of impact is the type of training you're doing having on the body, both daily as well as the accumulation of that weekly, monthly, annually. So when I'm looking at what's the number one way I want my athletes to train, well, if I understand that athletically your number one physical limiter is aerobic capacity, absolutely 70 to 80% of our training is going to be aerobic, because I know that's the number one physical limiter. When we start to drop in speed work, obviously we're trying to make sure that we always implement speed work when we validate that the body's ready for it. High body battery, high balanced HRV, not a high, but a balanced HRV, a resting heart rate that's within norm, good sleep ratios, good appetite. Now we have the foundation of an athlete that can handle a day of doing some speed work, and then you complement that with lots of food, quality and quantity wise, as well as quality and quantity sleep, and that's how you incrementally build a healthy individual. Whether that individual wants to go into athletics or not, that's not what's important. Foundation of health is always where we start. If we stack performance on top of it, it's just a win-win. So hopefully that clarifies why I'm so adamantly against high-intensity interval training, is by looking at the positive sides of doing predominantly aerobic training. They're just the benefits stack up so quickly, and in my opinion, they offset the benefits way more so than what, if someone were to tell me the benefits of HITT against benefits against aerobic function, I can always outweigh the HITT training every single time. Not to mention, you don't look prematurely old. So that plays a significant role for a lot of people based on where you're at in life. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I know it was a little bit long, but I needed to get the context set, and I wanted to make sure you clearly understood the benefits of aerobic training. If you happen to have any questions that me and my team can answer for you, please do me a favor, send it to contact@coachrob.com. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so. We put out a video every day here on YouTube. Please turn on the notifications. That way you'll be made aware of when our next video comes out. And again, thank you for your time today, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.